Thank you, everybody, for joining us today on this webinar for December 7th, this Tuesday. I am joined by Janet Johnson of the Advanced Group. I am Isaiah Roberts here today of the MICIA, and we are here to present the future of talent acquisition and retention and how to survive a talent drought. And I will pass it to Janet Johnson to share her screen and share the presentation.
Hi, can you see my presentation?
Not yet, I can see you.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, okay, great. Isaiah, thank you so much for the introduction and for the opportunity to be able to speak to all of you today. I work for the company that's called the Advanced Group. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing. We are a full service staffing and recruiting company, and we specialize in light industrial, general labor, skilled trades, and administrative services. Stacy Bigelow is our sole owner and has had the business for over 31 years. And I have been in the staffing industry for 24 years. And let me tell you, I've seen the roller coaster of the labor market in these past 24 years. But I must say that we are in incredibly interesting times right now. And this presentation isn't to be doom and gloom. I hope at the end of this that I give you the opportunity to be able to have a better understanding of what's happening with the talent drought and some ways to be able to better attract and retain talent as you work through this. I will be sharing some slides with you. This isn't going to go away overnight, but you certainly can still find great people and get product out the door. So with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and dive in here. So many people right now hear the term ghosting. You know, why are there so many people out there that are readily available to work, or there's the perception that there's people readily available to work, but yet people will interview, or they'll show up for an interview and then they'll accept the job and then they won't show up the next day for work. Why are they ghosting you? And a lot of that has to do with the fact that right this very second, it's an applicant market. They have so many options. But what you need to be doing is making sure that you're enhancing the incentives that you have to create an opportunity for somebody to want to come to work. For a long time, we had unemployment incentives that were being offered to individuals whereby it was easier for people to be at home than it was for them to be out to work. Those have now ceased and assisted. So people are starting to get themselves back into the workflow, and it's being able to find and attract those individuals and invite them into your workplace. And why should they work for you versus somebody else? They have so many choices right now. They can pick and choose wherever they want to go, and on a dime, they can change their mind, which is why oftentimes they'll accept a job with you today, and they may not show up tomorrow because their buddy found a job down the road and it pays $1 more, or they have a really cool lunch room and they provide lunch every day. And these are the types of things I'll get a little bit more into about how you retain the individuals once you've attracted them. The pandemic has created a lot of barriers for us. We started to see the pandemic opening up, and we started seeing people coming back to work, and workspaces not being 6 feet apart. And now we've got these variants. And what's the impact with the variants to the workplace? We don't know yet. Many companies have started to pause and go back to what was happening when they went into lockdown with COVID. Some of that's out of fear and the unknown of what these different variants can do or will do. We're waiting to find out what the federal government and what Biden's going to do with his mandate that people have to be fully vaccinated in order to be in the workplace, or be able to provide a weekly test-free result in order to be able to come into work. That's going to put barriers and strains on organizations in terms of how they're going to get people to work, or be able to get people to want to work or to come into the work. So that's another barrier that's in front of us right now that we're waiting to see the outcome on. We never in a million years realized, and I guess if there's a silver lining to some of what happened with COVID, it has allowed for remote work. You can interview remotely, you can communicate more remotely, depending on roles and responsibilities within an organization. And I'll use myself as an example. I live in Wisconsin, and I am the vice president of sales and marketing for a company that's headquartered in Ohio with branches in Michigan. Pre-COVID, we would never have known that a job like that could exist remotely. And this is happening all over the world, not just in the United States, but all over the world. There are presidents and CEOs that live in the United States and manage businesses in China. And it's working very successfully. So that adaptation of being able to work differently than we ever have been before is what's happening today. And that's an important thing for you in the cannabis industry as you're trying to find workers. Know that you don't have to have them in your door in order to be able to hire them. You can use technology to be able to recruit and attract individuals, and leveraging social media and different things like that in order to be able to get your name out there and the why they should come to you. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit more further into the presentation. What we want to do though is we want to make sure that we're finding the candidates that are interested in coming to work, they're motivated to come to work, and they're going to contribute while they're there. So how do you find how do you overcome that unmotivated worker, the unreliable worker, the worker who comes into the workplace and has a really negative attitude and it's kind of the drainer, not the motivator? And some of the ideas and things that we're doing, I'll be able to share with you as we continue on in this conversation. So I used the word ghosting a few minutes ago. So why are candidates really ghosting you? A big reason why is there's not enough people to go around. There are more jobs in the United States today open in the light industrial, general labor, non-skilled type work, warehouse, manufacturing, in the cannabis industry, in the farming industry, where they could be in one of your facilities and they could be doing trimming at the time of harvest. How many people do you need, depending on the size of your farm, is a reason why you're going to need a tremendous amount of people. But how come you can't find them? Because they don't exist. The people just are not there. It's not that they don't like you. It's not that you have a bad business. It's not that you're not a good person. It's just that they've got a ton of opportunities that may or may not be what you need or what they're looking for. There's no fair share. There's not a fair share of people. Your neighbor down the road could have 50 or 60 people and you might have 5, or vice versa. You've got to go ask your buddy or your neighbor down the road, why, how are you getting these people? How are you able to retain them? Is there a surplus that you have that you don't need that you could share with me so that I could get people into my door and get people starting to talk about me? But if you think that it's, one for one, that's not the case. And it's got to be you finding your compelling story to be able to get people to come to want to work with and for you. Pre-pandemic, the talent pool was already very difficult. It's interesting in the staffing industry. One of the things that I'm seeing over and over again is how many people have forgotten how difficult it was to find individuals at the end of 2018 and all of 2019. We were already in a talent crisis at that time. And then the pandemic hit. And I'll just use Michigan as an example. When the pandemic hit, Michigan's unemployment rate was at about 4.2%. The pandemic hit, it went up to about 6.7%. As things started to loosen up and the stimulus went away, from the federal government went away for employees or people to be able to be at home and still be compensated. When that lifted, so many people thought, oh my gosh, 6.7% of the workforce is now going to come flooding through the gates and they're all going to want work and they're going to be knocking on my door because they're going to want to come work for me. But what you have to remember is that in 2019, the unemployment rate was 4.7%. And those individuals weren't working then and they're not working now. That 2+% differential of the individuals that when the unemployment rate went up from the 4.7 to the 6 in Michigan, that 2.5% differential, those people, and we don't hear anybody talking about this, and I find this fascinating, that 2+% people, they've learned to live on one income. I know so many people who sold a car because they didn't need two cars. They didn't need to have the insurance on the car. They no longer needed to pay for daycare. Their work-life balance became very different. Their family life became much more enhanced. They got back to having family dinners and family game nights and being able to really be involved in your kids' lives. Not to say that you weren't involved in them before, but you're not running today 150 miles an hour like you were in 2017, 18, and 19. You know, work all day, run home. You've got to pick up your kids. You've got to get them to soccer practice. You got to pick them up after soccer practice. They got to get their homework done. Oh, I've got another kid that needs to go to dance class. All of that just kind of ceased and assist, and there was harmony and people could breathe. And they've learned how to do that today. So expecting those individuals to go back into the workplace isn't happening like the assumption was that it would happen. So in the pre-pandemic, we had 1.4 more million jobs than we had seekers. Post-pandemic, where we are right this very second, we have 10.7 million employers seeking people. They have 10.7 million jobs in essence open in the labor market. And right now we have 7.4 million people to fill those positions. Now, those statistics I just shared with you are all in. Just in the general labor non-skilled field, there are 7.2 million open jobs, and there are 3.7 million people to be able to fill those jobs. Give or take a little bit. That's a couple months of an old statistic, but the point is that there's way more jobs than there are people to fill them. I find this graph to be very interesting. This shows you what I just said in a graph form. So in 2010, there was just under 3,000 jobs open. Fast forward to 2021, and this is of about October of 2021, we're at over 10 million jobs, as I just indicated, 10.3 million jobs. I'm sorry, and I said 3,000, it's 3 million, my apologies. 10.7 million jobs open here as of October of 2021. One of the things that's really interesting is that the baby boomers, the Gen Xers, the Gen Yers, and the Gen Zers are a huge impact into why we don't have the labor market that we once did, and why the drought of finding talent is going to go on for quite some time. If you look at the early 1940s, and you look at the population that we had and how it continued to boom with the baby boomers and, you know, the 60s, 70s, the amount of people that are available is just astronomical. And then it just continues to dip and dip and dip and dip. And now, if you look at where we are, I started to tell you about 2018, 2019, how hard it was to find people. If you look right now, look how far we are behind just the replacement rate that's needed to get us to be able to fill those jobs. That shows you that gap I was talking about. 10 million people and only 10 million jobs open and only 7 million people to fill them. This is where that gap is. And we don't see that coming forward and changing in any rapid form at this point in time. I said at the beginning, I'm not here to have doom and gloom. I want to shed reality, but this drought is here to stay. It's really fascinating. In 2007, 8, and 9, there was 64% of our workforce that was ready to retire. Their 401ks were at a very plumb level, and they were excited to see the next chapter in their life happen. And then the recession happened and the bottom fell out. And all of those workers that were going to retire, 64% of our workforce that were retiring had to put, they had to like literally on the brakes, and they had to go back and say, I can't retire. I lost my portfolio. I lost my future of financial safety net. And they've continued to work up until the last couple of years. And right now we are seeing a huge surplus of our labor force leaving the market. And a big portion of that is those 64% of the people who wanted to leave in 7, 8, and 9 can leave today because their portfolios have bounced back because the markets have been so incredibly strong. So not only are we we're losing those people, but we also don't have the people coming back. We don't have that replacement amount that I talked about to backfill what we're losing. So it's going to take years for us to be able to get the balance of numbers of jobs that are available versus numbers of people who are there to fill. It's going to take some time. Statistically, if you read and you research this, they're saying, you know, we're looking at 2040, maybe 2045 and beyond before we're really back to an even surplus. So I mentioned, you know, the baby boomers are now retiring at an accelerated rate. That birth level, I indicated that replacement level is really super low. The new generations, they're working less. Technology allows people to be able to have much more flexibility. Some of the current labor market that we have that's on the younger side, they're able to flex their hours. Companies are hiring them and saying, here's the job that you need to get done. I need it. It's Monday. I need it by Friday. I don't care when or where or how you get it done, but I need it on my desk by noon on Friday. And voila, it ends up there. You may never see that employee. They may do it all from home. They may be night owls. They may be working from, you know, 11 at night until 7, 8, or 9 in the morning and then sleeping all day and starting all over again. It's a very different work model than anything that I grew up with or that I've seen in my lifetime, but it's definitely the wave of the future today. We already know that employees are leaving the workforce in record numbers. COVID has had people figure out some new ways to follow a dream and start up their own business. We've got the gig economy that gives people a tremendous amount of flexibility. More and more people are working part-time, and employers are finding that they need to have part-time workers in order to be able just to keep a line going or to get product out the door or to get widgets made. You have to be creative. What was and how you found people and the jobs that they did, the 8 to 5 is no longer. That doesn't exist today. In a typical day-to-day business-to-business world, there's so much flexibility in terms of what's happening and how businesses keep their doors open and allow people to work the schedules that work for them. And that some of that gets to work-life balance, and some of that gets to the fact that they just have to do what they have to do in order to be able to find the people who are willing to show up and work and do the job. And we already know that there's a lot of people who aren't working at all. Maybe they don't have to, maybe they don't want to. But we can't force them to come to work, because that goes back to the original slide. Then you just have people who are there that are more toxic than they are helping in terms of what they're bringing value to the organization. So let's flip this to something a little bit more positive. You want to win. You want to win the right person. So what do you need to be able to do that? You need consistency in how you are hiring people and what value you are bringing to them in the workplace. I had the opportunity a couple months ago to sit in on a seminar that was hosted by the Monroe Chamber of Commerce. And there was a speaker there that was outstanding. And he said that the company that he worked for had a very toxic environment. And they had new ownership that came in, and that new ownership came in with a very, very different mindset. And the mindset was this: I'm an owner of the business, and I walk around and I look at people who are in the warehouse or sitting behind their desk or in the IT department. And I think, gosh, every single solitary person that's working here for me is a son or a daughter, a sister or a brother, a cousin, an aunt or an uncle, a friend. They are somebody to many, many, many people in a variety of different ways. And they're sitting here working for me in my company, and I need to treat them like they are my family, because they're here doing something and they're spending more time in my office or in my warehouse or in my distribution center than they are working at home with a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, a friend, a cousin, an aunt, or an uncle. And I need to give them that respect that they are part of now my work family, because that's how they need to be treated and need to be seen. And it changed the dynamics of the whole entire organization to where people who were never asked about how they felt about their job or how they felt about work, they said they didn't think that they mattered. They thought people didn't even know my name. And you know my name, and you care about the fact that my grandmother passed away, or my uncle slipped and fell and broke his arm, or whatever their compelling story may be. This owner took the time to get to know these people and truly, truly treated them as if they were family. That's how you win. That's how you separate yourself from all of the other companies in your space, your competitors or your neighbors next door that you're competing for talent. So you need to make the opportunity more attractive for the candidates. You need to be more aggressive in how you find them. The days of I want 5 or 6 people to compare to so I can cherry pick the person I want, those don't exist anymore, because there's not 5 or 6 people that that are going to be knocking on your door. The one person who you get to interview, if you think that they are right for the job, give them the opportunity. Realize that you have a must-have in the skill set and the quality of the person I'm bringing in, and the wants. And if they have 80%, 75% of the must-haves, take them, because it's really hard to find somebody who has 100% of all that you want. And then that special care, the other category of I want them to have, throw that out the window. Take the best that you can get and be willing and open-minded to know that they don't have it all, but they're willing to learn, and then teach them and help them to grow and help them to flourish within your organization. Give them more opportunities. They're more likely to stick around. They're more likely to refer you and bring in their friends and family. That's how you're going to be able to find more and more talent, and be fast about it. That's what I just described to you. That's purposeful recruiting. It's a purposeful approach. And it's showing that you're making a commitment to the employees within your organization and to the employee that you're talking to about the opportunity. I oftentimes have the opportunity to be able to meet and talk to companies. I talk to organizations all the time: presidents, CEOs, heads of HR, plant managers, supervisors, you name it. I meet and I talk to them. And when we're trying to vet if they're a good company to be a partner with and that we think we can find the right talent and help them, I always ask them, what is your compelling story? What is it about your organization that makes you want to work here, that makes you stay here? And then I'll talk to the HR department, because that's typically at the end of the day who makes those hiring decisions that we work with for onboarding. And I'll ask that HR person, what are the top 3 reasons why somebody should come and work for your company? And to be honest with you, 85% of the time, it's like deer in headlights. They can't answer that question. And if they can't answer the question of why should somebody come work here, what are the top 3 things of why somebody should come work here? If the HR people can't tell you that, why would anybody take that job? Why would they want to come in? So in this cannabis industry and what you're doing and how you're growing, and the industry is growing by leaps and bounds, and there's so much opportunity. What is your differentiator? What is it about your business, about your farm, about your storefront, about the uniqueness of the products that you're providing? Make sure that everybody in your organization knows that. And think about what are the top 3 things that make you special, unique, and are a differentiator. And let that be part of your mission statement within your organization. And make sure that all of your employees know that. Because you know what? If they're standing in line at McDonald's and somebody asks them what they do, they ought to be super proud of what they do. And they should be able to say, I work for ABC Company. And you know what's great about them? They do this, 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 and this for their employees, or they have this, this, this in their environment. It's a great place to work. Oh, by the way, we're hiring. You should come and apply. You want them to be excited and be that voice. There's no better referral than your own internal employees. If you're not getting the people that you want or that you think should be knocking on your door, it's not that they don't like you. They don't even know you. They don't know anything about you. So as you're starting your recruiting process, you need to start asking yourself your questions. I'm recruiting. Am I recruiting, or am I just processing candidates? Am I churning and burning? Is my job posting appealing? Is it attractive? Do people really understand what I do? This gets back to what I just said. Make sure that you know what your compelling story is and tell that story and be proud of that story. How do you interact with somebody in an initial call? And when I say I or you, I mean whomever is taking that within your organization. Are they selling it? Do they have an upbeat, cheery voice? And are they behind the products that you have to offer and the opportunities that are set forth? And does that come across in their tone and their demeanor? You know, that why do you want to work for us? Like I said, if you were standing at McDonald's or, you know, wherever it may be, Panera, wherever it is, to be able to share with somebody why it's a great organization, really, that really can be a great, huge differentiator. If your employees have worked at someplace else and they didn't have a good experience, I don't suggest that you as an organization tell them to bash that company. That doesn't do anybody any good. They can say, I worked at a different organization and I didn't have a positive experience, or I did have a positive experience, but this place has this much more to offer. Again, that compelling story. And when you do this and you walk around and you get to know them and you're treating them like family, like that story I shared, that gives them, your internal employees, the feeling of engagement and of empowerment. And that is one of the greatest things you can do to be able to retain employees, because it's equally as hard to attract people as it is to retain them. So your recruitment strategy right now in this industry is not only to attract people, but you want to make sure that you retain them and you keep them there for a really long time. The average days on assignment right now is about 17. Think about that. You hire somebody, you spend the time to get them up and running, the training time that you've invested, and then 17 days later, they're out the door. You want to make sure that you get people who want to be there for the long haul. Turnover is costly. It's really costly. So if you do some of the things that I'm sharing with you today, not only will it help you to be able to attract people, but more importantly, or equally as importantly, it will help you to be able to retain those individuals. You want to be likable. So when you're talking to those candidates, some of this I've already said, you want to treat them with enthusiasm, with respect. You want to show the value. You want to treat the employees in this interview as if they're a part of your team, and they're going to be the next greatest employee that you hire. You want to make every interaction that you have memorable and positive. So when you're touring them around your organization, you want your team to be smiling and engaging. And if they're in the warehouse, or they're in the farm, or they're standing up at the front desk of your storefront, they're smiling and they're engaging, and it's genuine. I don't want you to create fake. We're not in the world of acting. This isn't Hollywood. This is really, truly like how you set your culture and the tempo that you have within your organization to be able to make sure that you get these people and they want to come and they want to stay. So this is a mock ad, if you will, a job posting. And this is in the food industry. So this is a made up example, and you can replace this for your organization. But you know, you're looking for a job. I need a job, and I see this posting, and this could be on social media, it could be on Facebook, it could be a job posting on a wall at a gas station. But you know, ABC company's looking for customers that want to be able to spend their money at a restaurant. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to read a menu, you're going to eat your meal, and you're going to review, and you're going to pay your bill. Kind of humdrum, right? And this is what the ideal customer must possess in order to be able to come and eat my food here. You know, you have to have a friendly and positive attitude towards the staff, an appreciation for the opportunity to dine with us, the ability to be able to eat quickly so that we can turn the tables over quickly, that you can financially pay for your meal, and that you want to make sure that you give a 5-star generous tip to the organization. If you think about this, is this a place where you'd want to eat? You're being told that this is what the top part is, what your experience is, and the bottom part is what they expect of you. Kind of is in reverse of how you should be treating that potential candidate. The most common job posting mistakes that are made, and these are so true. A job posting is really a job description. It's not marketing the piece. It doesn't tell that compelling story, the excitement of why somebody should work here. It's really what I just showed you before. It's the duties and responsibilities in a bullet point fashion of, you're going to show up for work, you're going to put on your apron, you're going to work in a hot environment, you're going to get, 2 15-minute breaks, and you can't smile or talk to anybody while you're at work. Do you want to come into work for me? This is where, the job postings, you act like the candidates don't have a choice. They're making everything about them, about the company we want, we need. It's not I or you, it's me. Me as a company needs this. Me as a company wants this from you. Lot of job postings for jobs are written as if it's towards an unqualified candidate. Assuming the job postings are meant for an active job seeker, you don't know who that job seeker is. They may or may not already be working. They may or may not already have an opportunity that they're looking for that next opportunity. Thinking about what are kind of those exclamation points that you can make to make the job more exciting. So this is another way to look at this. This is a job posting, or this could even be kind of what happens in the interview process, if you will. If it's an employer-centric speak versus a candidate-centric. So employer, the ideal candidate must possess the following skills. We're looking for candidates that can ... Are you hardworking? Are you dependable? Are you going to show up? Can you breathe? Can you look at a mirror and fog it up? I mean, sometimes we hear that right now when I'm talking to organizations. Find me a person that can just fog a mirror. That's how desperate we are. And they must be able to pass a drug screen. On the flip side, that positive spin, are you looking for the next stage in your career? How can you have plenty of time for work-life balance, to be able to engage in your personal life? Have you always wanted to ... Not are you hardworking, but have you always wanted to learn something new? Something like that. Are you the type of person who enjoys outdoors, reading books, traveling? Make them human, make them connect with them. That will help them to become more engaging. Here is an example of a candidate-centric job posting. I'm not going to read this to you. You can read this. I think these slides will be provided for you after this session is over. But the highlight of this is that you tell the prospective candidates what is the opportunity. That's that compelling story. That's the bright spot of what's happening. And then what you need from them. But it's not in that negative tone. It's not in that what I need from you because it benefits me. It's what makes this job so awesome. Here are the great things that are going to happen. We're leading edge. We've got good compensation. We've got room for growth. Whatever those things may be that are going to get them excited and attract them to want to learn more and come and talk to you about that job. And again, there's a lot more on this, but I'll let you guys read it when you have, you can see it now, but when you can get a hard copy of this. One of the biggest mistakes that companies make is that they're too slow in response. So when you're interviewing and screening for candidates, because of the labor market that we have, I mentioned previously, you don't have the opportunity to have candidates to compare back like you did many, many years ago. If you have that good candidate that has most of the needs that you have versus the wants that you have, grab them up. companies are way too slow to move on candidates that are available. So the people who are within your organization that are responsible for the hiring and recruiting, make sure that they ask themselves these questions on behalf of the organization. How long is it taking for you to be able to get through a candidate? How fast do you typically respond to an applicant, whether they are calling you, they're sending in their resume, they're responding to a job posting, whatever it may be? What percentage of the applicants apply during non-traditional business hours? Having people who are willing to work off hours to be able to grab these people if they're, because some people might be working an off shift, they might be working a second or third shift and can't respond to a job posting during, 8 to 5 or 5 to 5 p.m. or whatever it may be. Who is truly responsible in your organization for responding rapidly to these applicants? And also, once you respond to them, if you invite them in for an interview or whatever your next process is, make sure that all of the people that they need to touch are in line and ready to go. So if they need to meet with a supervisor, if they need to have a drug screen, if they need to have an orientation, make sure that that's all set up and you're keeping the cadence moving really quickly and seamlessly so that you don't lose that applicant. Because if you don't, you will lose them quickly. And I will also say, depending on the organization and the requirements that you have right now in this labor market, the more pre-employment requirements that you have for a candidate, the more you're going to scare them away. The fewer that you have, the better. Train them. If they can't read a ruler, don't throw them out because they can't read a ruler. Teach them how to read that ruler. If they don't know how to use a scale to weigh something, and if something needs to be a pound and the container that it is in is X number of ounces and they don't know how to work the machine to get the ounces out so you can really get the pound, teach them how to do that. Don't say you're not qualified, I'm not going to talk to you. That's a very teachable thing. And you could lose a really good person over one tiny thing that you could easily teach them. Your goal should be to get there first. So assign the people the right responsibilities, eliminate any unnecessary steps. I just mentioned that, and have speed to the hire. Make that job offer and when you make the job offer, not only make the job offer, have them ready to start immediately, like the next day. Because if you wait 2 or 3 days, I guarantee you, they're not going to wait. They're going to go find some other job and they won't be there on day one, even though they told you they would be there. And what happens is if you're not speedy and you don't have those next steps in place, here are the fall off points that happen between becoming a candidate and becoming the employee. How you source, what your application process is, the lag time between the application and the interview process. If you have a lot of pre-employment requirements like background checks and drug screens, background checks right now, if it's a 7-year background check with no felonies, et cetera, it can take anywhere from 24 to 72 hours in Michigan to get those back. If you can have them start while the background check is pending, that's always a really good thing. If something comes back in that background check that eliminates them from the job, you can end the assignment. I can tell you that in the world of the work that I do in Michigan, it's less than 1% of background checks that have a 7-year non-felony that come back, whereby we have to eliminate a person on their job. If we start them before the background check comes back. It doesn't happen very often. You can also look at the Michigan registry prior to see if there's anything on there that would be flagrant, and you wouldn't even then have to waste your time doing the background check. That gives you a little bit of a leg up. What are your skill tests that you need to have in order to be able to do the job? I mentioned, weighing, if that's a skill set that must be, it's a non-negotiable. Make sure that you understand what those things are and mitigate as many of them as possible, and be willing to train and teach. That people are thirsty to learn. Be willing to train and teach. Get them through that interview process. Again, don't lag. Get them onboarded, get them trained, get them through the orientation, and check in with them. Have your supervisors check in with them. Have a mentor on the team that's kind of a buddy for the first several weeks so that you retain them. Those are some little tricks to help for retention. Retention is huge. You can choose to focus proactively on the employee retention, or you can react to the employee turnover. If you pay attention to the employee, like I just described, they're more likely to stick around. Otherwise, all you're doing is you're just in that flywheel of churn and burn, turnover, turnover, turnover. And I mentioned earlier that that's incredibly costly and it's very disruptive to the team. The talent war is raging. It's not going to go away, like I said. It's going to take some time. Right now, wages to hire people are drastically inflated. And I know that's very costly to you and your organization. However, pay is the attraction, culture, and all of the things I've mentioned previously are the retention tool. Right now, the younger generation, 18 to 30, they don't really care about benefits at the moment. Whatever you're going to pay for those benefits, they want that in their wages up front. They'll care about benefits 5 years later, but the attraction is pay. It's not benefits. The attraction is culture. In 2002, 2010, and today, here's what the retention drivers are. Growth, learning, and development in 2000 was one of the key reasons why somebody would stay within an organization. Today, it's competitive. It's competitive compensation. I already mentioned that. In 2000, they wanted a work challenge. Today, they want work-life balance. They wanted meaningful work. Today, they want purposeful, driven work, something that's in it for them. In 2000, they wanted to be able to work with great people. Now they want instant feedback. This generation, the generations out there working, and a lot of them working in the cannabis industry, they want to know that they're doing a good job. The days of no news is good news doesn't really exist anymore. On a daily basis, thank them for the work that they did and point out something that they did that was really good. If they learned something, or maybe they were a little bit quicker at doing something, acknowledge that. They wanted to be a part of a team. They wanted to work with good people. Now they just want an adequate staff. They just want to be able to come in and do the job. Good boss was a really important thing. Now they want learning and growth developments. I'm going to tell you though, people still do want a good boss. Oftentimes still the number one reason that people leave a job is because of poor supervision. Poor supervisors or poor bosses that don't communicate or don't really act as if they care. So these are just some of the really critical things that will retain people, and this builds your culture. Right now, it's really, really easy for people to be able to leave a workplace. Just get up, walk out, and not come back. So make sure that you're doing the things that I've talked about before, making those connections, making them feel as though they're part of a family, part of a workplace. Give them that mentor, somebody who's going to be that buddy to help them to be able to know that they're not alone, that they feel a part of the organization, and they get comfortable. Make sure that the supervisors and the leaders in the organization stop by and make sure that they know that they're welcome and that they're appreciated and that they're thanked for the jobs that they're doing. That goes back to that gratification of immediate feedback. And then it's really important that the content for the job seekers is reassuring. I've touched on a lot of that right now. 1 in 3 workers have declined a job offer due to online reviews. Most of them are millennials. People use the internet today as part of their job search. They'll go out to Glassdoor, they'll go out to any kind of review site. And if you have a bad review or you have a bad reputation, it's going to crush you in being able to find people who are going to want to come and work for you. If somebody's having a really good experience, ask them, would you please be willing to go out and give us a positive rating on social media so that people know this is a good place to work. That doesn't hurt to do that. Don't buy them off on doing it, but ask them sincerely if they've had a good experience to go out there and make a positive impact and say something kind about what you've done. In closing, it's an applicant market. Pays the attractor, culture and benefits are the retention retainer. Treat your employees like family. care about them, show they matter, appreciate them. That's all I have for you today. I hope that you've got some nibbles that will help you as you are looking to attract and retain employees. I am happy to talk to anybody. If you have questions or you want more information, feel free to reach out to me. I can be reached at the advanced group, Janet at theadvancedgroupjobs.com, or my cell phone, 608-224-9627. Happy to help any way I can. Again, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope that you found value in what I shared with you today.
Thank you, Janet, for that presentation. It was very insightful, and definitely looking to see in the comment section if there are any questions. And I'm just gonna wait a little bit. I don't see any right now. I think it was a pretty great job. Let's see. Yep, there are no questions in the comment section. And I do want to reiterate that this webinar will be available as a resource on the MICIA YouTube page as well. And thank you for your time, Janet.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. And again, happy to help any way I can.
Yep. Thank you. And to all of our viewers, if you need to contact Janet, what was your email again? And what's the best way to contact you?
Email is Janet at theadvancedgroupjobs.com, or my cell phone, 608-224-9627.
Okay. Hope you guys heard that. And that will conclude our webinar, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Have a great day.